Hey guys, so today we'll be taking a look at the state of Georgia in the 2020 presidential election between former Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald Trump, where right now the former Vice President is leading by 0.4% in the state of Georgia. This is a state that Trump won by 5.1% in 2016, and a state that no Democrat has been able to win since 1992, when Bill Clinton was elected against George H.W. Bush 28 years ago. The state of Georgia was a solid Republican state in just 2004, and now the state is one of the closest states in the 2020 election. Taking a look at the polls specifically down here, these SurveyMonkey polls, I would just completely ignore. They are D- rated pollsters, the worst you can get, as 530 does not even accept F-rated pollsters onto their site. However, taking a look at the 7 latest polls, this is the only SurveyMonkey poll that was conducted from the 1st to the 30th in the month of September, so this is basically the entire month worth of polls. And the reason why their sample size is so large is because they do conduct these polls for a very long time, and they are an online pollster, which is the most inaccurate that you can get. But they both do show Biden up 7 and them up 1. And the 7 latest polls out of the state of Georgia, they all show Biden leading in every single one of them. The last poll that President Trump led in was a poll that came out 6 days ago, conducted from the 22nd to the 25th of September, showing Trump up just 1 point. And then these 3 polls conducted from the 16th to the 21st and from the 14th to the 29th. This is an A-plus rated pollster, Siena College and the New York Times Upshot, showing even rates along with these 2 data for progress B- rated pollsters. Both show an even race in the state of Georgia just 2 weeks ago. And now the state of Georgia seems to have moved so much further to the left than it was just 2 weeks ago. And taking a look at the data that was recorded previously, President Trump really never did have a solid lead. It was pretty back and forth. However, now Joe Biden leading in the 7 latest polls out of a state that has not voted Democratic since 1992. This is horrible for Trump and the GOP. And especially considering the fact that President Trump has caught COVID-19, he will basically be out of action, unable to have campaign rallies for the next couple of weeks here. So taking a look at the polls in March and January, this is just a couple of days after Super Tuesday, and this poll was conducted in January. So these are both conducted during the Democratic primary. Joe Biden is down 8 points to Trump in March, down 7 points in the month of January. However, after Biden won the nomination, his numbers went up so much, and he is now leading in the state of Georgia, a state that no Democrat has been able to win for 28 years. This is a state that was solid for George W. Bush in 2004 against John Kerry. So this is devastating for President Trump, as I said again, and the state I think is definitely going to hurt him, because I think that if Donald Trump cannot even win the state of Georgia, how is he going to win other swing states? How is he going to win Florida? How is he going to win North Carolina? How is he going to win Arizona or Michigan or Pennsylvania or Wisconsin? These are all states that are polling much better for Joe Biden. If President Trump can't even win Georgia, how is he going to win the election if he does not win any other of these swing states? And with losing Georgia, that is basically just a big hole in the Trump campaign's number of electoral votes. Because 16 electoral votes, that is among the 7 most electorally rich states in the entire country. So taking a look at the betting odds out of the state of Georgia, President Trump is currently at 57 cents per share to Joe Biden with 46. So essentially what this means is that Donald Trump has a 57% chance of winning the state to Joe Biden with 46. And taking a look at the 90-day graph here, Trump was up at 68 cents just 2 days before the first debate, and Joe Biden was down at 34 cents per share. Now he's all the way up at 45 cents. Basically, the margin decreased by 1/3. And now President Trump is, he was up at 68. Now he's all the way down at 57. This is just data from yesterday, as the markets have not closed today. But up here, President Trump up with 57 to Joe Biden, who has been increasing. He's now up at 46. So the bettors are now no longer that confident in a Trump victory here in the state of Georgia either. Even when President Trump was, leading by pretty solid margins, he only had a 2 in 3 chance of winning the state. Joe Biden still had a 1 in 3 chance of carrying the state of Georgia. However, now he has basically less than a 6 in 10 chance of carrying the state, and Joe Biden almost has a 50% chance of carrying a state that has not voted Democratic for almost 3 decades. Taking a look at 270 to win here, this is currently a toss-up state on their meter here. 16 electoral votes. As you can see, taking a look at this electoral map here, 16 electoral votes. The only state with more electoral votes than Georgia is California, Texas, Florida, New York, Illinois, as well as the state of Ohio. So this is one of the most electorally rich states in the entire country, and a state that has been pretty solid for the GOP along with the South. But taking a look at the trends here in the South, Donald Trump is doing horrible in the South. He has been doing the worst basically out of any Republican candidate in recent history in the South. He's not even polling with solid margins in Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, nor Arkansas or South Carolina, which is now a lean race in favor of the president. So this is devastating data for the president out of the South region of the United States. In Georgia, although I think that President Trump still has a very good chance of carrying, it is no longer solid for the president, and I think that he definitely has to put a lot of time in Georgia if he really wants to win this race. And I think it really all depends on how fast he can recover from his COVID-19 diagnosis, as I think that if he is going to stay in the hospital until election night, he's losing the state of Georgia, and he's losing this election. So what's even worse for the president is out of a poll conducted by Quinnipiac University, which is a pretty good poll, does many polls, and then out of 1,150 likely voters in the state of Georgia, only 4% were undecided. And then out of these people that they polled, 97% of Georgians have already made up their minds. 97% have already made up their minds, with only 2% that are open to being persuaded, which means that only 2% of Georgians are going to be swinging in this election. Of course, there are still going to be third-party votes for Jorgensen and Hawkins, but only 2% are going to change their minds on Joe Biden or President Trump, which means that President Trump has to win basically all of that vote that are undecided right now. And the polls that are coming out from undecided voters from 2016 are not showing good signs for the president. Joe Biden leads 2-1 to President Trump. He has 50% of undecided on his side or third-party voters, and President Trump has 25%, and the rest are still going to probably not vote for the two major candidates. These are the 2016 voters that did not vote for Hillary Clinton or President Trump. So this is devastating for President Trump, as I've been saying basically the whole video, because this may just kill the Republican Party in presidential elections, because if they can't win Georgia, how are they going to win other states on the electoral map? Taking a look at the 2016 data, President Trump led by 5.1% on election night. He won this state by 5.1%, and he was polling in favor. It was polling in favor of the president by 4.8%. That's only 0.3% swing. If you put this swing now, Joe Biden would still win the state of Georgia. And the polling, this does show the polling was pretty accurate. It was only wrong by 0.3%. So the polling data really was not bad out of the state of Georgia, and Clinton did have a little bit of a period where she did lead in the state. However, she really only did lead in two polls you can see down here, +7 and +4 out of two polls conducted in early August, where she was able to actually take the lead in the state of Georgia for a very short amount of time. However, after this, President Trump led pretty consistently in the state of Georgia, and right before the election, after the October surprise, as you can see before it, Clinton was doing all right in this state. She wasn't doing too horribly. She was just a little bit behind the president by 2.5%. However, right after that, after her email investigation opened, once again, Trump plus 4.8. So this really did show that President Trump was going to win by a larger margin, as the voters were swinging towards the current president during the last days of the 2016 campaign. So yeah, that's just pretty sad for Donald Trump that he is now probably not going to win in the state of Georgia. Taking a look at 270 to win, as you can see here, this is a state that he won by 5.2% in 2016. In 2012, Mitt Romney won 53% of the vote. 2008, John McCain, similar margin, 52%. But Mitt Romney, as you can see, he was a much stronger candidate. The national average moved way to the left, to the right, compared to 2008 and 2012. So John McCain only did it slightly worse. This does show a little bit of a decrease in support for the GOP in general out of the state of Georgia. And then in 2004, Bush carried this over John Kerry by a solid margin. In 2000, it was over 10%. It was double digits in the year 2000 and 2004. Now the state is barely able to be held by the GOP for another 4 years. And taking a look at the presidential voting history of the state of Georgia, as you can see, the last time that a Democrat won was 1992 with Bill Clinton. He won 370 electoral votes, and he carried the state of Georgia. And then the last time before this was Jimmy Carter, who was from the state of Georgia, 1980 and 1976. So after Lyndon B. Johnson signed into effect the Civil Rights Act in the 1960s, this state shifted, pretty drastically from the left to the right. Kennedy won in 1960. After his death, Johnson lost the state to Barry Goldwater, 12 electoral votes at the time. He lost the state for the first time in over a century. And after the Civil Rights Act was enacted, the South basically, if you take a look at the all of these 270 win graphs right here, basically the South went from blue to red drastically. It was a pretty drastic change. And then in 1968, Wallace was able to win this state as he was basically a white supremacist. So the South was moving much to the right. And then Jimmy Carter was able to win this state back 2 times, 1976 and even 1980. But in 1992, Clinton carried it, and after that, the Republicans have carried the state ever since. But in 2020, Joe Biden might just be the person that is going to flip the state for the first time in almost 3 decades. So taking a look at the Senate numbers here as well, I want to also take a look at this. This does show a pretty close race. So now David Perdue leads by 3 points over Jon Ossoff. There's also a poll here that shows Warnock is tied with Loeffler. Warnock is +1. So there are 2 elections in the state of Georgia. There's a Georgia Senate election, which is the normal election between incumbent David Perdue and Democratic candidate Jon Ossoff. And then there's, of course, a special election, and that is because Kelly Loeffler came into office just this year. So Kelly Loeffler, and her main Democratic challenger is Warnock, and then Doug Collins is her main Republican challenger. This is just because there is a runoff system in the state of Georgia. So the 2 candidates receive the most votes, just the most votes, a plurality. The 2 candidates that receive the most votes on election night are going to face off in a runoff election in January. So Warnock is now leading, but Kelly Loeffler, with the support of Doug Collins voters that are probably not going to swing to the left, she's probably still going to hold on to her seat. But as of right now, Warnock is expected to win the election in November, winning the most votes. But I think that after all the votes are counted after the special election or after the runoff election, I do think that Kelly Loeffler is going to hold on to her seat. As you can see, Kelly Loeffler is down 10 points to Warnock. So this is not good data. And she's also down to Lieberman as well. So the polls are pretty up and down for both candidates. Lieberman only had 16% of support, according to this latest poll that came out yesterday. So the Senate election is not solid for the Democrats either. As you can see, Ossoff is leading over Perdue as well. So the races in Georgia are all pretty horrible for the GOP right now, and the GOP is definitely underperforming in the state of Georgia. I think that is pretty important to their hold on the Senate, if they were to hold on to their majority in the Senate, as well as if President Trump is going to win his re-election. I think that if the Republicans lose the Senate race and the presidential election, they're going to lose everything. They're going to lose absolutely everything. The Democrats are going to be able to control the House, the Senate, and the presidency, which is not going to be good for the GOP in the next years. And then taking a look right here, this is a CBS News article that came out just a couple days ago, just 3 days ago, I believe. And this is, just basically the recent attention to discrimination against Black people. As you can see, among Black likely voters, 74% believe it's not enough. And then among white likely voters, the attention is, according to white Democrats, this is just all white voters. 77% of Republicans think it's too much. 58% of Democrats think it's not enough. That's just some data that came out, and this is even worse for the president. This is data I think is pretty concerning. So the Supreme Court vacancy makes this election more important in the state of Georgia. 53% agree that it's more important, and then 43% agree that it's no change, and 3% think it's going to be less important. But taking a look at how motivated people are to vote out of the state of Georgia, 60% of Democrats are going to be more motivated to vote. This is in total 50% of voters are going to be more motivated to vote, and 46% of Republicans are going to be more motivated to vote. And this is not going to help the Republicans because the Democrats typically do not come out as much in the state of Georgia. This is the party affiliation in 2014. In 2014, the state of Georgia was a lot more conservative than it is now. The state of Georgia is shifting to the left demographically. So as you can see in 2014, this is 2014. So it's probably even better for the Democrats as of right now. 41% of the voters here were registered Democrats. 41% were registered Republicans or lean Republican voters, and 18% are no lean. So these are the toss-up voters, basically. These are the voters that are going to decide who actually wins the race in the state of Georgia. But 41% to 41%, the Republican Party does not even have a party registration advantage over the Democratic Party. So that's not good for the president in the state of Georgia. I think that right now he is probably going to win the state if he does pretty well. If he does do well on election night, I think that he's still going to win this state. however, by the smallest margins we've seen for a Republican in decades. I think he's definitely going to win this state with a tilt margin if he's going to win it. But right now, I think it's pretty 50-50 like North Carolina. I can definitely see that Joe Biden on a good night winning the state of Georgia, 16 electoral votes. This would be crucial to both a Trump and a Biden victory, just racking up their electoral vote count totals. And so that is it for this video. Just some devastating data for the GOP out of the state of Georgia. Just more states that seem to be flipping, and along with Ohio, which is now polling in favor of Joe Biden as well, and Iowa, which is also looking very, very poor for the president. So yeah, that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like down below, as well as subscribing to my channel. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, along with any suggestions for videos you'd like to see from me in the future. And I apologize for releasing this video out a little bit later than I usually do. But yeah, I will see all of you guys later today.